Runescape is a massive online game that has thousands and thousands of interesting facts varying from bosses, skills, minigames, items, history, and so much more. In this video, I have gathered the best of the best, and today I want to show you 2 hours of Runescape facts that you might not know about. If you want to learn about old school Runescape and just need a relaxing video to watch, this is the one for you. Let's get started. There is a RuneLite plugin called Prestige, and what it does is allow you to visually reset your skills to level 1 even if you have 90 plus skills. The most tedious process of getting 99 is the last few levels. It takes very long and there's almost no pop-ups. What this plugin does is start your process again from level 1, showing you all the progress you can get once more. So let's say you're level 92 and you want to reset this. It's much easier to get level 92 twice than just go for 99 in these long grinds. But the outcome is still the same. Have fun. The 1 minute delay you see after dropping items has been in RuneScape for over 20 years now. Essentially, after you drop your item, there is a 1 minute window, and when that time is up, other players can see that item and pick it up. This used to be a bug after weekly update in 2002, but Jagex decided to keep it in the game and call it a feature because so many players liked it. Jagex even made a statement saying it wasn't intended that dropped items become visible to other players after 1 minute, but it seems a lot of people considered it more of a feature than a bug, so we put it back into the game. You can heal with 3 different items in one tick. I always remember this tech as a shark brew around one, but the shark can be replaced with any food in the game, and the brew can be any potion in the game. For example, this could be very useful if you need to heal over 40 hit points very fast, or maybe you want to add in a prayer dose during PVM. It is highly recommended to bring Karamjans to any bosses you have the opportunity, because it could help you out in a sticky situation. Just remember the letters F, P, K. Food, potion, Karamjan in that order. Next up we have an item called the Ancient Brew, which is one of the best potions in the game and not many players use them these days. Currently the price range is around 1.2k each, give or take, and the best use for this potion is an alternative for prayer potions. This potion increases your magic and prayer stats while decreasing your melee stats. Good example is right here. Let's say you want to do pickpocketing at RD Knights. One potion alone with Redemption Prayer can heal you up to 80 hit points, which is extremely good value for the price. You drink 1 dose of Ancient Brew, you put on your Redemption Prayer, and you heal more than 20 hit points for 300 GP per dose. I think the potion is extremely undervalued in certain niche cases. Sip a potion, put on Redemption, heal 20 hit points, and repeat over and over again. Saves you on banking, saves you on money and time. Next up, there are commands in Oldschool Runescape that every player should know about to take advantage of. If you ever played on a private server, you know the classic command which is : bank, and in private servers it opens up the bank, but this doesn't quite work in Oldschool Runescape. But we do have some other useful commands. For instance, you can do : wiki, and let's say you want to search for Armadillo Godsword. In the chat it says a web browser has been opened up and you now have the wiki page for Armadillo Godsword opened, just like that. You can also type in things like : display FPS and it now shows your frames per second in the top right corner, or things like : render self, which makes your character invisible. Now other players can still see you and the invisibility only works for you, but it does have some uses, mostly for PKing and places that just have a lot of players in one location. Which brings me to my next point. There is a RuneLite plugin called Entity Hider, which hides everyone else but you. Another one is : toggle roof, which removes and adds back all the roofs in Oldschool Runescape. And lastly, if you're using Steam Client, you can also do your window size parameters. So let's say I wanted to put my game window as 1920 by 1080 and it immediately full screens my game. Next one is really easy one. If you turn off your run energy and press Ctrl on your keyboard, your character will keep running until you let go of your Control key. It's a toggle option, and even though your run is turned off, it will still make use of it. This is useful for certain bosses in the game and saving your run energy in some situations. Okay, let's do a quick fire round, and firstly let's talk about settings. It has so many good options that it could be overwhelming for certain players, so let's go over some niche options to make your gameplay experience easier. Jagex recently added in PK skull prevention option, and if you enable it, it helps you from getting skulled in the wilderness. Really useful if you don't want to get lured. Next up is collection log notifications, and whenever you get a new collection log item, it does the little jingle. There's even options to sort all of your quests chronologically, and if you ever wanted to do your own buy release series and start from 2002, you have that option from the settings. Another one is for mobile users, and this time your phone starts vibrating if you perform non-interface actions, which makes it really useful for players who wanna AFK and are looking for cues to look at the screen again. Few other mobile settings are things like seeing bird nests on the ground when woodcutting. Also, there are multiple respawn timers for mobile users like ores for mining, fishing spots, woodcutting spots, agility highlights, and even things like Slayer Helper for your tasks. Here's another little fun tip for you. You can use ground markers with labels as a RuneLite plugin to never forget which dock is which. Another really useful place for this is near the Dwarven mines in Geldagrim. I just tag all the mine cards with appropriate locations, and now I will never have to spend 2 minutes trying to figure out where exactly am I supposed to go. Next up we have one of my personal favorite ones that I feel many players should take advantage of. As you're doing quests, your bank starts to fill up with more and more quest junk items, and it gets really annoying sorting those out. So here's what you can do. The wise old man will remove any useless quest junk items from your bank if you talk to him. All you have to do is choose the option, could you check my bank for junk items, and the interface will pop up with a button at the bottom right saying remove all items from your bank. For me, it removed 42 quest items with one click of a button. Another useful article on the wiki is the food section, where it lists every single food in Oldschool Runescape. For example, Admiral Bai and Monkfish heal both 16 hit points, but Admiral Bai is almost 3 times cheaper than Monkfish. It's a good and simple way to find out cheap food that you should take advantage of. This is an easy but very useful tip for players who are raising cats. You can use ball of wool on a kitten so it doesn't require any attention from you for an entire hour, instead of the usual 30 minutes if you just stroke it. Did you know that you can add garlic to restore potions for 25 experience, making an unfinished balance potions, but that 25 experience comes regardless of the number of doses. So splitting a 4 dose potion into 4 single doses means you can get 100 experience in total. Absolutely useless in the grand scheme of things, but still a fun fact. Or here's another one. Did you know that you can cut charcoal with woodcutting skill? Yes, you can get charcoal and all you need is an axe. You go to Fossil Island and there are burnt trees here. If you cut them, you will not receive logs. Instead, you will only receive charcoal. Now some say I'm a connoisseur for Oldschool Runescape facts. Some say I'm a loser. I say why not both? I mean, we're already halfway there, why stop now? But the problem is I have so many fun facts I want to showcase to you that I think showing just few is not enough. I want more. I need more. So without further ado, here are some solid Oldschool Runescape fun facts for you, and we have a good one to begin with. There is an interesting item called the Lizard Kicker, which might just be one of the best ranging items for Iron Man until you reach 72 Herblore. What the item does is push your range level by 4, but it drains your strength and magic. It costs almost nothing and you can buy it from the Shasian bar. So if you want a cheap alternative to boost your ranging level, this is actually perfect for that. Okay, good start. Next up, let's talk about butterflies. There's an item called Snowy Night that you can catch with butterfly jar and a net. You can use that Snowy Night on another player, and that player will heal for 15 HP. This also works with Ruby, Sapphire and Black Butterflies, which boost the other player's attack, defense and strength levels. The same amount you will get with Super Combo Potions. That is extremely nice and I don't think many people know about it. Okay, let's continue with more fun facts. Next up we have summer pies, which are statistically the fastest healing food in the game. You can heal 33 hit points in 1.8 seconds because you can eat pies in quicker succession than most foods. Your attacks are still delayed like with all other foods, but if you need a quick heal, this is the best one out there. Not to mention they restore run energy and give agility boost, which allows your run energy to deplete less over time. Did you know there are a total of 3 King Black Dragon lairs in Oldschool Runescape? One is the original one, aka the lair you see KBD right now. The second one is Nightmare Zone because it was implemented so early on into Oldschool Runescape that they didn't have time to make Nightmare Zone into actual lair, so they just reused the KBD one. And the final one is actually in the Temple of Ikov quest dungeon. Yes, it was first released in 2004 and there was unfortunately a safe spot in the KBD lair, so they made a new one in the wilderness, but they never removed this one and it's still there to this day if you use detached camera feature. You can even go check it out yourself. Unfortunately, the old KBD has now moved on to the farm to live out the rest of his days, but it's still an interesting relic from almost 20 years ago. Let's talk about membership. Ever wanted to get 1 day of membership? Well, now you can. If you are free to play and have members items in your bank while not being able to afford a bond, you can buy 1 day of membership on your Runescape 3 mobile account that is linked with your Oldschool Runescape account, and it costs a total of $1. It's a great way if you just want to play the game for 24 hours or be able to sell some of your member stuff so you can buy a bond. A lot of people have asked me this in my videos about this one specific RuneLite plugin that showcases all of your weapon charges, like the Abyssal Tentacle, like the Blowpipe, like the Trident, and so many others. And it's called the Weapon Charges plugin. It's really useful so you don't have to right click your weapon every time and you always know when to recharge it. Using the full Thorax with Amulet of the Damned is actually one of the best ways to kill Chaos Elemental because the passive effect increases your defense level by 1% for every 1 hit point missing. Meaning, if you're on 30 or 40 HP, your defense is so incredibly high that you don't need to eat almost any food. And this works against PKs as well, making you a complete tank, while almost risking nothing. And in return, you can, for instance, get the Chaos Elemental pet in 3kc, or maybe even better, who knows? Yes, I did get it at 3kc, and I had to record this part over the clip because I couldn't control myself. If you want to see the actual clip with the live recording, I have it on my Patreon, so if you want to support me or this channel, patreon.com/Kriibus. Okay, let's move on. I had this weird issue where every time I use shops for money making, I had to re-enter my bank pin after every world hop, but I found out there's an easy fix for that. If you talk to any banker, you click on the change your pin settings and then click on the change logout behavior. Your pin will now only activate after you've been logged out for more than 5 minutes. That way, if you word hop, you don't have to enter your bank pin anymore. And it only allows the pin to remain entered if you log in from the same IP address. So let's say during those 5 minutes you get hacked. The hacker won't be able to access your bank. The original sound for cooking animation you hear was actually the Crower brothers' mom who was frying bacon. Yum! The Crower brothers are, by the way, the people who made RuneScape, just in case you didn't know. When you're about to hit 200 million experience in a skill, there is no message or fireworks, but just in case, I recommend you still try it out yourself. Lamri's casual cooking range gives plus 30 cooking boost to 2 items. Usually you stop earning botanical buys at level 84, but for this range only, you stop earning at level 52. The same goes for mushroom buys. Normal is level 89, but the range is level 60. So whenever you need to make your own buys, use the Lumbridge range. If you attack NPC with a ranged weapon and then click on any food or potion in your inventory within the same tick, your character will try to run to melee distance of that NPC and will just stand there menacingly. The reason for this is that the game cancels your attack because you interacted with the food and or potion, but it doesn't cancel your targeting the NPC because those are 2 separate things. So now you know when you noodle at a boss, what's the real reason. One of the fastest early game farming training methods is actually buying Grand Seed pods. These pods cost 150k each, and when you right click them and use the option to launch, after a small animation you will be teleported to the top of Gnome Stronghold, and it gives you 100 farming experience for it. Getting from level 1 to 50 in farming requires 25 seed pods and it costs over 3 million GP. Back in 2007, there was this popular thing called WWE RuneScape version, where a large community would go to BOH and just battle it out with role-playing entrances, fighting, trash talking, and everything else involved. They quite literally held RuneScape Championship where they just fought it out to see who becomes the WWE RuneScape champion. Here is probably the silliest fact for this game. Since Jagex parent company is a publicly traded firm, you can buy dividends to make technically Jagex pay for your membership. You would need around $10,000 worth of dividends to sustain a membership through that, which equals to around 60 years of membership. Is that worth it? Absolutely not. Is it still a funny fact? Yes it is. The closest bank to fairy rings is currently the code TJR, which puts you just few dials away from the Shasian bank, so if you're fishing around ones or just regularly are using fairy rings, you should use this instead of the fairy ring home teleport, as it saves you a lot of time. Gem rocks are now one of the best mining experience in the game. With the December update, Jagex changed how mining rocks works, and the delay on gem rocks is now basically removed. With Charged Glory, you get gems 3 times as fast, and you can get up to 100,000 mining experience while also getting you 1 million GP an hour. Here's a useful fact for you. You can use the house viewer inside your BOH to relocate all your rooms to your preferred way, which helps you keep you the rejuvenation pool and teleports close to the house portal if you messed up early on in your construction training. There is a hotel in Shiloh village where you used to be able to sleep back in the day. RuneScape used to work way different than 20 years ago, where if you got really exhausted after walking for a while, you had to rent hotels, and they cost 35 GP per night. Apparently it never got removed, so you can still buy the ticket for the night, but you can't do anything with that ticket. After the tutorial island, you need to kill exactly 3,258,608 chickens to get level 99 attack, strength and defense. There is an interesting subreddit called Runescape Collect, where people show off their most prized collections, like a guy who has almost 100 million GP worth of tiaras, or someone who collects mostly useless seeds. There's an amazing plugin called the 3D Weather plugin that allows you to have realistic weather in Oldschool RuneScape. It works with snow, rain, sunny, foggy. You can change the intensity of the weather and even your preferred season. Clouds, stars, lightning, whatever you want to create that realistic experience. It even has its own ambient sounds. If you want a free prayer boost, you can use the Ancient Maze special attack inside your BOH to get a guaranteed max hit prayer boost every time. It saves on prayer potions and is very effective if you're still using your BOH anyways to restore your stats. Did you know that if you subscribe to Kriibus, you are guaranteed to get more fun facts until the rest of your life? Don't miss out on this great deal. Yay! The Elite Sword currently costs a little bit over 5 million GP, and it's still one of the best in-slot items to train your magic with, that many people don't use these days. For comparison, this 5 million GP item gives you 3% increase in your damage, while any Ancestral piece, which costs over 100 million GP, gives you only 2% increase. Basically, full items and the ward gives you almost identical DPS as the Ancestral top and bottom. There is a plugin called No Examine that allows for much cleaner loot piles and human piles so you can see what to pick up or who to trade. The best place to pickpocket master farmers is actually the farming guild. You can use the seed vault to basically one-click store all of your seeds so you never have to worry about running out of inventory space or banking. Cows cannot die to poison damage in Oldschool RuneScape because there is a weird mechanic where if an NPC has a chat dialogue, it takes priority over every other action. So whenever a cow says moo, the game code makes the moo tick timer disrupt the poison damage timer, which means cows are technically immune to poison and venom. It works the same with chickens, but there is another hidden mechanic where if a chicken has an NPC dialogue, squawk, I don't know how to chicken, I'm sorry. They spawn an egg under them, so what you can do is poison or venom a chicken. The game makes chicken dialogue prioritize over poison and venom, and when it hits, it instead spawns an egg. Congratulations, you now have infinite egg moneymaker. And it pretty much works the same with ducks and every other animal. So if an NPC can talk, they likely are immune to poison and venom. Next up, we have something amazing. In RuneScape 3, there is this very popular farming method called player-owned farms. What you can do is grow your own creatures, starting from chickens, rabbits, sheep, to a point where you can grow your own chocolate and strawberry cows. And you guessed it, they produce chocolate and strawberry milk. At higher levels, you can even farm your own dragons that produce dragon bones, dehydes, and so much more. Well, back in 2017 RuneFest, there was an announcement made by Jagex that they are planning to bring livestock as an add-on to farming in Oldschool RuneScape for you to farm Herblore secondaries. There was gonna be 2 barns in Oldschool RuneScape, one in Lumbridge, the other in Seiya. And on those barns are 2 animal pens where you store your animals. You can purchase the baby versions from master farmers or get them as drops, and then you can harvest them as they grow over time. They also have an expiration date, as we all do. So as these animals get older, you can slaughter them for massive experience and even more loot. Sounds fun, right? Well, it was announced 5 years ago with the startup plan, and then Jagex went completely silent on it, and we haven't heard a single update on it since then. Yeah, Jagex tends to do that with their updates. I went over all the ideas in Gillenor Cassette, Game Jams, RuneFest, and I kid you not, I found around 30 updates that Jagex has talked about that has never seen the light of day. Best we can do is hope. Meanwhile, I just keep talking to you about cool facts, like Slayer Masters. We all know the best Slayer Master for hunting bosses is Turadel, but do you know who is the second best? Neve? Nope. Konar? Nope. It's actually Spria, the lowest Slayer master in the game. She has multitude of easy tasks that work as bosses. So if you're looking to chill and also do some bossing while gaining Slayer experience, Spria is actually a very good option to boost your Slayer points while also getting good loot. Ironically, she also gives you bird tasks which allow you to use Imbued Slayer Helm while jumpy bird hunting. Okay, let's do a speedrun of fun facts. Number 1, the mysterious old man you see during random events actually lives in Oldschool Runescape. He lives upstairs in the most western house in Falador. You can talk to a guy in Dark Wizard's tower and he will teleport you straight next to Sanari's house. It's very useful for early game methods for clue steps, and it's faster to use this method than running from Lumbridge in certain cases. You can find a needle in a haystack. Hey, and after you find it, it also gives you a cute dialogue. You can get positive approval rating from Miscellania by buying flowers from the flower girl. It takes on average 2 sets of flowers to gain a favor, and it's a great alternative to get favor for your kingdom management, if raking weeds or mining coal isn't your thing. And last but not least, back in the day, players who got banned didn't get their account removed. Instead, they were put into a black hole until the ban was over. They could still log in and chill, but the black hole was the only place they could exist. Other players could visit the black hole and make fun of them, and then use an item called Disc of Returning to come back to the mainland. That was until banned players tricked visitors to drop their Disc of Returning and trapping them into the abyss with the banned players. Jagex soon removed this feature and just started actually banning players instead. Disc of Returning is now one of the most rarest items in the original game, and as a souvenir for a callback on how things were almost 2 decades ago. Okay, perfect. Now, let's take a breather from all of that and fall into existential crisis. Breadcrumbs, used in quests, used in cooking, also used in finding innocent NPCs who have gone mad. Don't believe me? Let's go take a look. After completing Bon Voyage quest, you can enter Fossil Island. On this island there are multitude of monsters and resources, but people come here mostly to do birdhouse runs or if they want to watch Netflix or YouTube. On this island is also a cool Easter egg where you can find these bell shrooms, and upon further investigation you can feed it breadcrumbs, which in return allows you to enter the other side of Thor's Swamp. Now, what's on the other side, you ask? Well, an archaeologist gone mad and his diary. On that diary, he talks about how the swamp is literally eating him alive and he's losing everything he has ever loved, but the only thing he has left is a skeleton who was likely his loved one at one point or another. Problem is, there is no skeletons nearby, it's literally his imagination. Day 19. It's fine though, everything is fine. Skelly over there is keeping me company, day in, day out, never leaving my side. Day 23. Skelly is angry with me, and I don't know why. I snapped at him earlier, and my mind is slowly deteriorating. The swamp is evil. I just want it to stop. To be over, please. Someone. Find me. Day 35. It's been over a month in my new home with my friends and creatures and mushrooms and vines and plants. And oh, Skelly, yes, Skelly is back. I'm friends with Skelly again. He doesn't do things anymore though since the backstabbing, but we don't talk about that. No, we don't. No more deaths from above. No. That scares me. Day 39. I found bread. Why bread? Why breadcrumbs? I tried to speak to the bell, but she just ignores me. One time she tried to eat me. I think that's how I got here. I can't remember though. Skelly is doing well. He said we can go to somewhere new later. That's exciting. Yes. Very, very exciting. Day 47. Where's Skelly? Did you know there is a brightness value to all lightable items in Oldschool Runescape? There's a total of 3 levels. For instance, the Abyssal Lantern has a value of 3, while the normal torch and candle has a value of 1, which is the lowest. You would also think different colors of bullseye lanterns work the same, but they don't. You see, if I light this bullseye lantern, the normal one, it has a light value of 3. But if I put the sapphire in, it lowers the value to 2. Funnily enough, the emerald one also has 3. And all of this affects how well you can see in dark places. And not only that, the levels stack on top of each other. So even though, for instance, a simple candle has a level 1 brightness, if you bring 3 of them, that equals the same amount as the Abyssal Lantern. The highest you can go is level 3, so anything above that won't make your caves brighter. There is light at the end of the tunnel after all. Sorry, no more awful dad jokes. Let's move on. Let's talk about fire caves and how to achieve your first one. You see, for years the biggest problem with fight caves was that you can easily clean out the first 62 waves, but then blank on Jad. Well, there is a way to fix that now. You can practice Jad infinitely in-game until you feel comfortable to get the actual cape. And here's how to do it. Log into any speedrun world and select the quest Beneath Cursed Sands. Every time you start a speedrun quest, you are given a loadout gear and supplies. In this quest, one of the items you get is a fire cape, and that allows you to access the other side of the Tsar city. What you do now is teleport to fight pits or find a way to the Tsar city and move to the deeper areas of the city until you find a minigame teleport on the north side. After speaking to this NPC, you can immediately start practicing for Chad fight infinitely. You don't waste any supplies, you don't have to spend over an hour or 62 waves to get to Chad, and what's even better, this version of Chad is slightly harder. So once you have this down, you can easily take on the actual fight caves Chad. Granted, the only weapon you have here is a rune crossbow and your range level is 85, but it's good enough to practice. It's a good way to get over your nerves because if you blank, you can just go again straight away until you feel comfortable enough to take on the actual Jad. And soon enough, you can start bragging your fire cape to your friends that still don't have it. And you know how someone also always brags that they discovered big celebrities way before they got famous? Well, you can do that exact same thing if you subscribe to this channel. Mwah, love you. Next up, we have Marks of Grace. Few weeks ago, the lovely team of Oldschool Runescape Wiki came out with a full explanation how they finally work after people have been trying to figure out this for years. There's a lot of math behind this, and I'm gonna save you the trouble. Too long didn't read is that every time you complete a lap, there is a 1 in 3 chance to receive a Mark of Grace. Except for one course. The thing I noticed is that if you wanna get your full graceful outfit the fastest, you should do Kanifi's agility course, because that place has 2 in 3 chance to receive a Mark of Grace. So far people thought that after you get 60 agility, you should move to Seer's agility course. But apparently that's not the case anymore, at least if you're only here for marks. You see, there's a mechanic where after you are 20 agility levels above the intended course, you basically stop getting Marks of Grace. But there is a bug going on where this doesn't stop with Kanifi's agility course and only this course. So technically you can be level 85 agility and Kanifi's course will still give you the most amount of Marks of Grace per hour. Even with Rarest, Kanifi's course is still actually one of the best for marks. On average, it takes 15 hours to get the entire graceful set here, and that's the fastest way to get it unless you have RT Elite Diary completed. So the most optimal way is to get 35 agility and with the use of summer pies get the graceful outfit as soon as possible. Or even if you somehow manage to have 80 agility, the Kanifi's course is still the best way to get it. Okay, it is time for quick fire round. In this episode I have something very good for you planned. You see, on the 27th of October, Jagex announced that they're gonna move the threshold for polls to pass from 75% to 70%. And I thought, why not go through all the polls that have passed over 70% of votes in the past but still not have been implemented into the game. Let's start with a quick fire round. The Ring of Elements was supposed to be a free-to-play item, but got only 74.8% of votes instead of the 75 needed. Vestos Longsword, one of the most powerful PvP weapons in the entire RuneScape, was supposed to enter this game, but unfortunately only got 74.6% of yes votes, missing by only 0.4. Jagex polled the question, should the players unlock a shortcut through the entire underground pass after you have completed the quest, but unfortunately only 70.4% of players wanted this. This was also polled a year later, and this time 73.1% wanted this. The Blade of Saldar was supposed to have a special attack called the Saldar's Strike, increasing your damage dealt by 50% and knocking your enemies back, but unfortunately only 70.5% of players wanted to see this in-game. There was supposed to be a superior version of the prayer potion after Theater of Blood came out into Oldschool Runescape, requiring 91 Herblore and offering extra prayer restores, plus restoring more prayer points over time, but only 71.7% of players wanted to see this in the game. Also, 71% of players wanted minus lamps to be added into Oldschool Runescape, which remove 50 experience from any combat skill of their choosing, and you can only get total of 10 lamps on one account. There was a poll asking players if they want to have a custom arrangement on their prayer books, so essentially filters that we already have a magic spellbook but now on prayers. You can also resize your icons. 72% of players also wanted to remove the wilderness stitch. And 72% of players voted yes on being able to buy Runefest tickets and accommodations through Oldschool Runescape funds. And lastly, the most important update we still haven't gotten, there was an official poll on Modronan's Twitter asking if we should change the range skill to Rudy Doody, Pointy and Shooty, and 80% of the player base agreed. This was many years ago, yet when I logged in, it was still called the range skill. I am thoroughly disappointed. Okay, well, this was very sad to hear that none of these updates have made it into the game, but it's time to move on to much lighter things. Let's talk about levels. Did you know that there are only 2 skills in Oldschool RuneScape that have unlocks at every single level, and those 2 skills are smithing and construction? Funnily enough, if you have in-game sounds turned on, there is always 2 jingles playing when you level up. One jingle is when you unlock something new within that skill, and another jingle plays when you don't unlock anything new. In January 7, 2016, Jagex released Shasian armor into this game, and with that there was an unlock at every smithing level from 1 to 99. And the official didn't unlock anything at this level jingle for smithing was officially removed from this game. So here is one last time to remember that jingle. And finally, I think some of you might actually know this, but there is an item called the Soul Bearer which sends your ensouled head straight to the bank. It is a super useful item for Iron Man and doing Slayer, as most ensouled heads are extremely profitable and people just seem to not pick them up. So from now on, you have no excuse to not bring this item with you, because it either gives decent extra GP or free prayer experience. There is very easily accessible dragon Impling spawn that gets trapped in the 3 Gnome Stronghold swamp or the tortoise cage. It's a very nice way for Iron Man to catch dragon or lucky Implings by just world hopping around, and it's also very profitable for normal accounts as well. I spent about an hour here and I found 2 dragon Implings in total and many other Implings like ninjas, magpies and so on. I made about 1.1 million GP profit, and the reason why this place is better than the other spawns is because the fences around the swamp and around the tortoise area trap the Implings in. They can't go over the fence, so it's almost a static spawn in a way. It's a really good way to boost items if you want Implings. I've seen a lot of players saying that getting the Lovaken's favor is one of the worst things in the game because you keep getting hit by the smoke clouds. Well, there's a solution to this. If you attack the spider once and lure it over to a point where you have to mine, the clouds will no longer go over you, and essentially now you take 0 damage here. You can stay here as long as you want. It's actually a pretty decent mining experience per hour as well, because you don't really have to move and you get 25 experience per sulfur. So hopefully this makes getting your favor much easier now. Next up, I want to talk about boots. Yes, boots. I've seen a lot of early level players go for snakeskin boots at the start of their journey, but there is actually one pair that is better range and is completely free, and it takes like 5 minutes to get. It's Zazian Boots 5. They have better stats than snakeskin boots. That's it. And if you lose them, you can come back here and reclaim them for free. The same goes for gloves, by the way. Shasian armor is one of the best armors you can get as an early game Iron Man. It gives so many stats. There is actually a lot of items people aren't familiar with that work for early Iron Man. For instance, the gnome hats have exact same magic boost as salad ropes, but are much cheaper to buy. Another one is Yak D'hide legs, which offer better stats than Green D'hide, but only require 20 defense level and is much easier and faster to obtain. And there are many other items out there, so I recommend always keep searching for the best options with the least amount of efforts. Okay, let's go to the next one, and this is my favorite in this episode. Now, when I found out about this, I did not believe it at first, but after testing it out, it turns out that this is true. Apparently, the cow kick home teleport animation actually acts like a 3x3 NPC barrier, which you can use to Safespot any NPC in the game basically. Granted, it is very click intensive method. You don't see me spam clicking on the second monitor right now, but it does exist and I bet it could be used to discover new methods of doing bosses. If you actually want to unlock the home teleport animation yourself, just come to Trainer Village, talk to Django and redeem the code and type in OSRS RF 2014. Here you go. Happy Safespotting. When playing the Guardians of the Rift minigame, to ensure you never miss the start of the game, you can click on Start Mining and on the same tick, click on any skill info tab or any other stalling method, and when the timer goes down to 0, your character will automatically start to mine, ensuring you don't miss out on any fragments. Let's talk about one item I haven't seen many players who are not pickers use these days, and that's Phoenix necklaces. These are a hard counter to anyone rushing you in the wilderness, or if you're under attack by a clan, because it does two things. It restores up to 29 HP instantly and cancels all the damage in queue. Meaning, if you were gonna die from a hit and the Phoenix necklace goes off, you will survive. If you manage to eat a shark plus Karam 1 with the necklace, you can effectively heal yourself back to 70 HP in less than a second. Do me a favor, take few necklaces with you when you go hunt those wieldy bosses. It's extremely useful and oftentimes the only reason between you spawning in Lumbridge and getting out alive. Everyone knows jugs of wine are really cheap food for early level accounts, but the problem is everyone is buying them, so oftentimes you are left with worlds that have zero stock in them. Well, there is another food that is extremely cheap and affordable for early level accounts, and that is meat pies. They heal for 12 HP and they can be bought for 18 GP in West RD General Store. Just don't ask what's inside the meat pie, okay? And the mildly interesting part is that if you're a normal account, you can sell the pie shell back for 50 GP profit per pie. Okay, here's a quick one. If you're lost and you need to find a way back to bank fast, the closest bank in Oldschool Runescape, if you have 0 teleports in your inventory, is actually the fishing trawler minigame teleport. All you have to do is go to your grouping tab, click on fishing trawler, teleport, and about 10 seconds later you are gonna be 5 tiles away from a bank chest. And here's another closest source that is water related. There is a sink in the Hasidius kitchen which is exactly 0 tiles away from a bank chest. Really useful for Ironman who need it for cooking or Herblore. Here's a fun fact for you. There is a plugin that allows you to see the ancient teleport spells with their actual names. For instance, Padawa teleport is actually Edgeville dungeon teleport, and so on. No more need to spell out Karalangar and wondering if someone is putting a curse on you. Here's another cool one. If you have any leftover spirit seeds or saplings in your bank from doing PVM, you can trade them in at the Farming Guild Master for extra seed packs and make either a little bit of extra GP or just generally good source for other seeds. I traded in over 10 spirit seeds and I made almost 1 million GP in few minutes. And to add on top of that, you can right click on the seed pack to open up the entire thing all at once and not spam click through it. Okay, here's another cool trick. I played this game for 17 years and I learned this last week. Apparently, you can use the dye ingredients on Achi in Trainer Village to skip the entire incredibly long dialogue and get your dyes straight away. This will save you so much time down the line, I promise. And another cool trick I didn't even think about before, but you can combo eat strange fruits with stamina potions to get insta plus 50 run regeneration. It's extremely useful in blast furnaces if you just forget to restore run energy or any other place where run restore is a necessity. It also works with super energy potions and normal energy potions. With just few clicks you can get your run instantly back to 100. There is a way to get to Edgeville using only Ring of Dwelling, and for that you need to go to Varrock's Enclave. You go downstairs to the basement and over here there is a portal to Soul Wars. Once you enter Soul Wars you can take the same portal again by right clicking on it. And this time you will spawn in Edgeville instead of Varrock's Enclave. Here's another fast pro tip. The wise old man at Trainer Village will remove any useless quest items in your bank after you talk to him. A great way to keep your bank clean of junk items. Also, please don't remove your monkey speak amulet like I did. It's just a pain to get back, trust me. And last but not least, if you're planning to AFK training ranged at Sand Crabs or wherever else. Please do not use knives for training anymore. Use darts instead. They are almost exclusively much cheaper and have almost identical stats. For instance, mithril knives are currently 120 GP each, while mithril darts are 4 GP each, and they are pretty much the same thing. And this exact same scenario goes for adamant versions as well. The darts are like 10 times cheaper than the knives, but they are stronger. So from now on, I don't want any of you using knives for training anymore. Okay? Okay. Did you know that if you keep feeding bananas to a monkey during Monkey Madness 1 quest, you will eventually receive a free medium glue scroll? Now, granted, the chance to receive the glue is 1 in 256 and you can only get it once, but while you're doing the quest, you might as well take the free glue. You never know, this could be the ranger boots. Next up, we have another simple trick you can do. One of the only random events players still love to complete is the Dunce Exam random event, where a player is rewarded experience book after completing it. There is a trick to complete it really easily. What you do, instead of clicking click here to continue after guessing, you click on the dragon again and the interface never changes, so you get the same question 3 times in a row. That way you don't have to think and you can use the last brain cell on other activities. Enjoy speedrunning the Dunce event. There is a way to get the maximum amount of blue tears from Tears of Guthix every single week, and here's how you do it. So every word has a different order at which the green and the blue streams run at. For instance, this word currently has green, blue, 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 green, green. Now this is bad. You don't want this because the greens could pop up anywhere and ruin your run. So again, green, blue, 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 green, green. Bad. To maximize your gains, you want a world that has firstly 3 green streams and then 3 blue streams to make sure you will never ever click on a green stream and lose your tears, and always get a blue stream no matter what. There are dedicated words every week that have this stream order, and how to find out the best words is if you go to a webpage, crowdsourcing.com, and that page shows you the best worlds you can do your Tears of Guthix in. They also have a RuneLite plugin called DOG Crowdsourcing and a friend chat DOG World. Keep in mind that these words reset every week, so make sure you check back in regularly to see the best words to do Tears of Guthix in. In my first attempt testing this out, I got over 200 tears, which gave me almost 14,000 construction experience for 3 minutes of my time. Yes, construction is my lowest skill currently, do not shame me, okay? Let's move on to the next one. Magic secateurs are one of the oddest items in the game. Firstly, they only work if you equip them. Having them in the inventory does not give you extra yield. I learned that the hard way after I planted over 50 snapdragon seeds. Secondly, I've seen so many players bring them to giant seaweed, but weirdly enough, they have no effect on that plant and don't give extra yield. The opposite of that is the Herblore you catch for the hunter skill, where the magic secateurs do give 10% more yield when you catch the monster. Adding to that, the item doesn't count as a weapon, which means you can take it to Entrana, so even though it doesn't have high combat stats, it's still better than using your fists. And lastly, you can use magic secateurs on diseased trees to cure them, saving you potential 3 saplings. What a weird item. Okay, next up, a bolt pouch is one of the best items you have never used, and here is why. Firstly, compared to rune pouch that currently costs almost 4 million GP, you can get the bolt pouch for only 1.5k GP when talking to Hirko, the dwarf that runs the crossbow store in Geldagrim. Why is it so good, you ask? Good question, player. Here's why. The pouch holds 5 spaces, and each space allows the player to hold 10,000 bolts of a single type, including bolt tracks for Kairos crossbow and mithril grapple. It's excellent for armadillo trips where it saves you 2 inventory slots. It is mandatory when you do Halot Sepulchre, as it turns out the agility training method gives you 3 different types of bolts as a loot, saving you another 2 inventory space, and you need a mithril grapple for that place anyways. And lastly, it's also excellent for PvP, as you might bring 3 bolt switches, and when you lose it, it only costs 1.5k to get another one. Okay, I hope you enjoyed those fun little nuggets, and if not, here's a quick fire round just for you, because I love you. Here we go. You can use half pizza slices on each other to create full pizzas again. There are currently a total of 155 quests in Oldschool Runescape, and there is only a single quest where you don't have to interact in a dialogue with any NPC, and that quest is Elemental Workshop 1. If you try to use Lunar Spell NPC Contact while standing right next to the NPC you are calling, they will call you out on it and say, why would you need to call me? You're standing right here. We all know equipping Charged Glory gives you 3 times faster chance to mine a gem ore, but did you know that equipping a Charged Skills Necklace gives you 3 times better chance of finding a cascade while big net fishing? There is an item called Prayer Book that works as an unlimited antidote, and not only does it cure poison, but also venom. There is a hidden mini-quest where after giving wolf bones to Vejas, he asks you to retrieve a dog collar from this pet named Copper. You can kill foxes in Sia now for 100% guaranteed collar drop. This however becomes impossible once you complete the Kingdom Divided quest, as Vejas disappears and turns out to be a demon instead. This mini-quest is in the memory of an ex-Jagex moderator wolf whose dog passed away at the age of 19. There is a fishing spot similar to Cram ones next to Pristina City that never changes the spawn point and will always stay at the same spot. This is an alternative AFK training method for fishing if you don't like banking. And lastly, at the demon ruins in the wilderness, you will slowly regain prayer points near the greater demons. This was added on as an incentive for free-to-play players to have wars here and not run out of prayer so fast. Oh, okay. This was fun, but I'm not done yet. We're just getting started. Let's keep going. There is an interesting weapon in Oldschool Runescape that I think not many people know of. After completing the Great Brain Robbery and having the Book of Piracy in your inventory, you can speak to the smith on mostly harmless island. Through dialogue, you can buy an item called Rapier. It costs 25k to buy the item, and it has equivalent stats to Rune Scimitar. The smith also sells Lucky Cutlass and Harry's Cutlass, both of which have very interesting stories behind them. The Lucky Cutlass was previously owned by a pirate called Unlucky Jenkins, who was probably the unluckiest guy in Gillenor, and that's where the name Lucky Cutlass came to life, as the smith thinks you can't possibly be more unlucky than Jenkins. And Harry's Cutlass originally belonged to a guy called Harry, who lost his right hand at the Battle of Karamja. So he had the smith make a sword for him that has a gauntlet fixed to the hilt of the sword to continue fighting. While the last two weapons don't have very good stats, the Rapier, however, is a stab version of Rune Scimitar in a sense, and could be used for low-level Ironman accounts. Funnily enough, this item has been in the game for 16 years. So on release in 2006, it was in fact one of the best stab weapons in the game for a short period of time until Samarek Hasta was released a year later with God Wars Dungeon. Next up, I found this interesting fact from Oldschool Runescape Wiki Twitter page, and there is a way to get killed by your own cat. If you try to get your own wily cat to chase a crypt rat inside the Paros dungeon, they can actually hit you for a tree and kill you. You go through a dialogue where you tell the cat to hunt a rat. The cat doesn't want to do that and you start insulting the cat. After some back and forth, the cat says hiss and damages you for 3. And they have this hilarious picture of a player in hardcore Iron Man armor dying to their own cat getting hit for a 3. I found this extremely hilarious and sad at the same time. Who bullies their cats? They are adorable. Except when you need death runes. I saw this amazing drop from Galphite Queen on Reddit, and my first instinct was that this has to be one of the rarest drops in Oldschool Runescape history, coming in at 1 in 13 million chance. But that got me thinking, what is the absolute rarest possible drop you can possibly get in this game? And no, it is not you finding a significant other, because that is technically impossible. In fact, the rarest drop in Oldschool Runescape is getting 40 onyxes from the bag of full gems. And it comes at, oh dear god, I will not read that number out, but basically it is bigger than the amount of atoms we have in the entire universe. Did you know that the GE tax Jagex implemented a few years ago has now removed minimum of 5 trillion GP from the game itself? These are just few of the items that Jagex takes from the game, and the system is very simple. Every time you buy a valuable item, you have to pay 1% extra tax on that item. That money is then piled on an imaginary stationary account, and then that account buys these items and removes them from the game. And the only reason for this is to keep the demand for the items high at all times. And while we're at the topic of GE, there are actually items in the game that you can't physically buy yet, but you can search them at the GE. Like for instance, if you type in rock climbing boots, you can see the item that is very similar to the normal climbing boots, but you can't buy them. This is a relic from the past when the boots themselves were manipulated to go up in price. Another item is Osman's report, which was obtained during the 2022 birthday events. And if you read the report itself, it has a code inside that opens a YouTube video to the Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. And finally, you can already see the item Virtus robes in the GE, but you can't purchase them yet. These robes are coming with the new Desert Treasure 2 questline in the near future, but they are already in the database ready to be launched. And while we're on the topic of weird items, did you know that there is an item in the game called Pat of a Nut Garlic Butter that you can obtain on the upstairs house at Darkmire? The item works exactly the same as Pat of Butter, but the hint here is that it does not contain garlic, which is about as scary to vampires as it is for me talking with women. In any case, a Pat of definitely not garlic butter is not the longest name in Oldschool Runescape history. In fact, that item just got launched into the game a few months ago, and the title for the longest item name in Oldschool Runescape currently goes to Corrupted Morrigan's Leather Chaps Bounty Hunter Inactive, coming in with a whopping 49 characters in the official title name. Congratulations, hopefully that title will one day be broken. Okay, let me show you something useful. Have you ever seen those annoying bots at GE who always spam weird messages? Well, there is a very easy fix for that, and you guessed it, it's a RuneLite plugin. There is a plugin called Chat Filter, and you can expand that filter list and add in a line of messages. Here is the entire list on the screen, and it will essentially remove all the annoying text that you can see at GE, and I will make sure to leave the paste bin link down in the description for you to use as well. Just make sure the game chat filter option is not turned on the plugin, otherwise you might miss out on a few rare drops in the game. Next up, I'm gonna show you this simple yet very effective method to check in your kingdom management. You don't have to go to Miscellania anymore to check up on it. Instead, just open the quest tab, and after you complete the quest itself, it will now showcase your personal kingdom stats. It shows your population approval and how much money you have in the coffer. It saves you a lot of time and effort. Okay, let me show you a few locations in the game that you might have never thought of before. Firstly, if you ever played hide and seek, there is this interesting cave between the Goblin Village and Taverley Wall, and if you go inside that cave, you spawn in a very odd place that nobody knows exists. This used to be an event many years ago, and you had to come to this cave to complete the event, and it's still here. Next location is right by the Lumbridge River. You have always known this place as a goblin outpost, right? But in the lore, it actually says a human used to live there just a week before you spawned in the game. But it was overrun by goblins, and the guildmaster even states that Lozar, the person who used to live here, actually had a piece of the map that was taken by a goblin. Later on in Dragon Slayer quest, we find out that Wormbrain was the goblin that took the map piece while the goblin raid was happening, and he was put to jail for that. And by the way, if you want to discover all of these locations yourself, or the entire map of Gielinor with all the instanced areas, all the dungeons, all the raids, everything you see, you can actually visit a webpage called OSRS.world. And it's basically a map viewer that shows you absolutely everything. There are a lot of cool places that not many people know about or even think to use. Like if you go past the wilderness, you can see all of these instant areas starting from raids. We have a few areas that are only meant for quests, and at the end there are even god wars, underground dungeons, bosses. I mean, there is everything here, and you can explore all of that yourself, and it's just a fun little thing to see how layered the Oldschool Runescape map really is. Okay, it's time to speedrun some facts to you. Firstly, in the latest update, Jagex has added some awesome nifty features for you to enjoy, starting with the fact that you can now change your chat colors to something like this. There are codes for every color, and you can type in each letter with a different color. Once again, I'll leave the link in the description for all the color codes. Secondly, you can now rearrange prayers to whatever you want. Hide them, showcase them, put them in the right order, drag them around, whatever you want to do. Thirdly, you can now sell members items in the Grand Exchange even if you're not member yourself. This allows you to sell items if you don't have that cash option to purchase a bond. Here I am selling a Dragon Axe to the GE while in the free-to-play world, and in return I can finally be members again and buy a bond. And finally, another quick pro tip is that you can buy all that you can afford from the GE if you right click the 3 dots and select all. So let's say I have 1 million GP and I want to spend all of that on prayer potions. This means I will right click the 3 dots, press all, and it now shows that I can purchase this amount of prayer pots for 1 million GP. A really handy feature if you're looking to stack up on items and don't want to buy them in multiple occasions. And fourth but not the least, there is this really useful item called the Rogues Kit that I don't think many people use. Basically, after you open it up, you can choose any of the tools you need for whatever reason. This is actually really useful if you're questing and you need to save inventory space like Underground Pass or the Grandmaster quest we have in the game. And it only takes like few minutes to obtain. It's essentially a toolkit that you see in RS3, but our very own version of that. Oh, and here's one more. Did you know that the #1 player in Oldschool Runescape history has never played a single minigame, nor has he ever killed any of the bosses, which absolutely blows my mind. That man is committed. Okay, I want to end the video with this, and this is probably my personal favorite and goes to showcase that this game is funny. So after finishing 3 mentor quests, you can use the spell called NPC Contact, which is mainly used for 2 things, Slayer tasks and rune crafting. But there is also an option for random NPC call, and some of the dialogue you get from this is absolutely hilarious. Like, you can call a man and he says he's on a toilet and can't speak with you. You can call the Lunar Helpline Assistant and get extremely poor customer support service, which I feel like is very meta right now with the Jagex situation going on. And you can call Lumbridge Guide and make him say that he's a bad boy. Which, you know, I don't know who wrote this, but I swear that this should be said only on 2 occasions, to children and in bed, neither of which are suitable for this scenario. And there are many others as well, like prank calling a gnome, calling the Lumbridge cows, and even Osman, who is absolutely drunk with the squirt choice he's been drinking lately. There is a mechanic where under very specific circumstances, you can make the chicken inside your device burp. And here's how you can do it. Firstly, make sure your equipment tab is filled to the brim with items so metallic items from Ava's device can't spawn there. Next up, make sure you also filled out all your inventory spaces for the same reason. Then you have to make sure the item itself cannot be dropped on the ground. For that, we have to enter our POH in building mode. If all 3 criteria are met, the chicken inside your device has no other option but to guzzle up the juicy steel arrow, and in return it makes a yummy burping noise. This can also be accomplished while you're sitting in your POH chair or deep underwater. Yay! They say you're not supposed to pick your favorite fun facts, but I'm not gonna lie, this is my personal favorite. After completing the best quest in Oldschool Runescape Rat Catchers, you can get a special variant of a cat called Wily Cat, which are the strongest version of cat in Oldschool Runescape. But these cats having the highest success rate of catching rats is not the only thing they're capable of. First, to get a Wily Cat, come board Serim Rat Pits and talk to Well Crash. She will allow you to turn your overgrown cat into a Wily Cat, if you want to. This is a one-time process and your cat can't be reversed, unlike your Netflix subscription. Felcrash also allows you to pick a name for your cat. The obvious first option would be Deathrune, but unfortunately you can only choose a name that is 6 characters or less. Trust me, I tried to go through a few options, but nothing just seemed to hit the spot. Until I found the perfect name. Meet KitKat. Now, she can do amazing things, one of them being able to catch butterflies. Yes, cats in RuneScape can catch butterflies despite giving you 0 hunter experience and rewarding you absolutely nothing. In addition to that, they can also catch Calphite larvae, which unsurprisingly also gives you 0 experience and yield. For now though, KitKat will live out the rest of her life eating premium raw tuna from GE and hunting mice. Ever wanted to see people suffer? Me too. And today I have just the perfect nugget for you. When I got my rogue's outfit, I dreaded the experience. Mostly because I don't even train my thieving anymore, but also because the only people that actually enjoy rogues then are the people who also preheat their microwaves. So to get back my enjoyment, I realized that there is an option to spectate other people who are also trying to complete the minigame through the viewing gallery. And boy, it is so much more fun seeing other people suffer than doing it yourself. So whenever you feel sad, just come here and watch other people be sad as well. Here's a quick farming tip for you. Filling out compost bins is tedious and time consuming, but there is actually a much faster and better way to do it while also farming your watermelons on a patch. If you manage to click on your farming patch, click on the watermelon and click on the compost bin on the same game tick, the player will continue to farm the watermelon patch while simultaneously fill out the compost bin. This will allow you to do basically 2 things at once. From now on, I don't want any of you Ironmans wasting precious seconds on doing this separately. I believe in you. You can do this. Here's a fun fact. I am getting closer and closer to 20,000 subscribers, so please help me make my dreams come true and become the 127th best Oldschool RuneScape content creator. Thank you very much. Now, I know the next fact will make some of you say out loud, why would you do that? And the answer is simple, because I care. So, I bought Cow-Tuber for 700k. Actually, I bought 2 Cow-Tubers for 1.4 million GP just in case one doesn't work. I planted both of them just so I can harvest Cow-Wheat, which is untradeable, and I wanted to find out this niche little way to get herbs from Phantuwti because it turns out he trades Cow-Wheats for normal herbs at the rate of 1:1. So after I lost all my money, I headed over to Phantuwti and turned my Cow-Wheat into herbs. And it turns out, yes, this is indeed the most inefficient way to get herbs in Oldschool RuneScape. The more you know. There is an item that, like burnt food, can only be traded person to person, and that item is called Amulet of Nature. Its only purpose is to track one single farming plot for you just in case it gets diseased, and it was intended as a secondary mechanic if you didn't have patch protection nor compost, and it has an extremely interesting way to make it. Firstly, you have to get magic roots and use those on spinning wheel to get a magic string. Then you have to attach an emerald amulet to the string and enchant it to make the Amulet of Nature. Funnily enough, the magic string can be bought from GE as well, and it has a round volume of 70 to 80 items traded per day, which shows you how forgotten it is. And yes, it is pretty useless, but I find these nuggets the best ones, items that nobody uses anymore. In the quest My Arms Big Adventure, Burnt Meat speaks about an adventurer that came by earlier and makes fun of this adventurer's name. However, the name actually isn't random. In fact, it's the name of the last person that completed the quest before you. So essentially, since now I completed the quest, Burnt Meat is gonna make fun of me to the next player that comes by here. I guess you could say he's the biggest troll in RuneScape. Sorry, I had to say that. There is an interesting interaction with one of the cocktails in the Gnome restaurant minigame, and it's called the Drunk Dragon. You need 32 cooking to even make the cocktail, but you can still burn it. How do you burn a cocktail, you ask? Good question. The answer is that there actually isn't the burnt cocktail item in the game, so instead of receiving the 130 cooking experience you would normally get, you will receive exactly 0 experience for the cocktail, despite successfully finishing making the drink. Whenever you are woodcutting, whenever you are mining, you have always known that when I level up my skill, my chances to mine or cut something also go up, and the truth of the matter is, you have been lied for your entire life. Dun dun dun. Yes, sometimes a higher level means your experience rates will go down. Let's take maple trees for instance. At level 81 woodcutting, your chances to cut a maple tree are higher than it is at level 82, and it's almost 0.5% faster. Another case is Motherlode Mine, where your chances of getting golden nuggets increases by almost 0.5% every 14 mining levels, and then drop down to a normal chance after you level up one more time. You can see at level 71 mining it's 3.13, and at level 72 it's back to 2.73, and this goes on until level 99. The reason for this is actually extremely complicated, but explained to me like I'm 5 years old is that the game engine sometimes divides the numbers in the wrong way. So even though your chances of catching monkfish should be higher at level 75 fishing, it's actually about 0.5% better if your fishing level is 1 level less. Okay, next up, this is a fun little fact. Whenever you have an empty beer glass in your inventory and you talk to one of the bartenders in Gielinor, a completely new dialogue option appears where the bartender offers to buy the beer glass off you. Unfortunately, this is not very profitable since the beer glass is bought only for 2 coins despite costing 50 GP in the Grand Exchange. Oh boy, this episode is getting expensive, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, let's do a quick fire rounds. There is a one-way agility shortcut on the inner side of North Wall on Yanil that has no agility requirements, no marking on the minimap and no animation when using. It's just a leftover design from the actual shortcut that is few steps south. Kebabs are a free-to-play superfood, the best one out there. It has 21% chance to heal you for 15 hit points on average, accompanied with a message that was a good kebab, you feel a lot better. And it has a 4% chance to heal you for 30 hit points, and you even gain attack, strength and defense boost. The monkey breeds of OK is technically an object, not an NPC. They couldn't make an NPC that was non-moving and sitting in a chair at the time, so they built him as an object, which is why if you hover over him, his name is blue, not yellow. And a bonus one, found this recently, if you use Mithril Siege you can get into the room without having to get permission from the guards. Take that, monkey security. Marks of Grace are actually just frisbees Grace uses to play with her dog. You collect the ones that got stuck on the roof for a reward. Her dog is also modeled after Mod Matt K's dog. And finally, the weight of sawdust is the same weight loss from converting woods to blanks. This was your quickfire round by Kriibus. Back to our normally scheduled fun facts. When I was a kid, I did the quest Pirate's Treasure, and I always wanted to find a way to smuggle the Karamja Rum out of the island in any way, shape or form. Unfortunately, it just isn't possible. When you try to travel off Karamja, it will get confiscated. Even a Ring of Karas won't work in a dialogue because apparently you will dance for joy and it suddenly breaks the rum. And even Rance won't let you take the rum across the sea. Not to mention it will instantly break if you teleport anywhere, entering Tar City, POH portals, fairy rings, entering Shyla village, all impossible to smuggle. Not to mention this also means you can't bank it, let alone bring it to the mainland. There is even this funny interaction where a monkey steals your rum if you use the cart system to travel to Shyla village. Or another one where if you try to use the parcel service with Ryanesta using trading sticks to note items, it doesn't even allow that. My favorite screw you line is trying to use the inboxes and the notification says, "Don't you know, you can get into trouble for giving alcohol to minors and I am pretty small." It has to be said. It was impossible. Until a very simple trick was found by the wiki team. It turns out you can smuggle the Karamja Rum with the following methods. First you have to drop it on the northern river bank outside the western side of the village. Then use Karamja Glow's tree to teleport inside the village and use telekinetic grab from inside to get the rum, and it can be banked and brought to the mainland now. It blows my mind that this item is 22 years old and only a few months ago a new method was found out how to smuggle this item in. I got this odd yet awesome tip from one of my viewers that said, "Hey, Kriibus, did you know that the pirate shop on Mostly Harmless has one of the best moneymakers in the game? You can make up to 3 million GP an hour there, and the best part is nobody uses it." And I was hesitant to say the least, but I went there to test it out myself. Now, the only item you need for this is Book of Piracy to access the store, which you get after the Cabin Fever quest. And the store we're looking for is the clothes store, and specifically we're looking at 3 items here. Firstly, the white pirate bandana, which is used in elite glues as a step, and the other 2 are pirate leggings, which are one of the most common Fashionscape items. Now, I will say this right off the bat, this is not something you can consistently do, and as the demand goes down, so will the profits. But it's something quick that you can just grab onto if you want like a fast 1 million GP in the matter of minutes. But as you will see later on, these items do sell, and some of them insta-sell for me, which means there is actual demand and people do buy them. It's also good to notice that the Fashionscape market fluctuates a lot depending on the time. For instance, since currently there is a Pride event going on, which you know people love colorful stuff, that means the demand for these Fashionscape items are also quite high. And for the bandanas, since it is an elite glue step, those are always gonna be in demand. They might not sell instantly, but people are willing to pay premium price in GE just so they don't have to get it themselves. So after 10 minutes of doing this, I spent around 130k coins for all of these items, and I ended up with 530k, which means in 10 minutes I profited 400k GP, which means I can technically make 2.4 million GP an hour with this, and I was kinda chilling and watching a movie on my other screen. You can probably get up to 3 million GP profit if you're more active. The only question left is, do these items sell? And the answer is yes. Well, kinda. The bandanas didn't sell instantly, but I knew right off the top they're gonna take time, but the leggings sold instantly, and not only that, they sold for more than I put the price for. Like the blue leggings went for 1.1k each, even though I put them for 900 GP, meaning this is currently well over 3 million GP an hour. First up we have cider. Now this is very simple. You talk with the bartender, you buy a cider from her, and it costs you almost nothing. But the price on GE, however, fluctuates between 800 GP and even 1k each, depending on how much in demand the item is. One inventory takes around 2 minutes to fill up, and again, same thing. I can just put on my Settled Tileman series on my second monitor and let my spacebar do the work for me. After about 10 minutes of buying, I got a total of 138 ciders, and the age-old question comes up again. Do they sell? And the answer is of course. Insta sold, and even though the price shows 400 GP each, they are so highly in demand right now that I saw sometimes they even go for 1k each, which means that comes around 500k GP an hour with very chill methods. Next up in Prifddinas we have a store that's right next to the bank, and it sells an interesting item. I don't know why this shop sells papyruses, but it does, and the current GE price for papyruses are like 200 GP each. And it's the same thing with cider, but you don't have to buy them one at a time. You can fill up your entire inventory immediately right next to the bank. And papyruses are in demand. I looked at the volume daily and it's over 7,000 per day, which means they sell decently. I would say right off the bat I couldn't sell them instantly like the other items, but they are used for questing, they're used for construction, which means that it's always gonna be bought. And during my 10 minutes of doing this, I also found a crystal impling, which is a side benefit from being at Prifddinas, and that could also boost your hourly profit even further. Overall, in 10 minutes I got about 800 papyruses, but I got distracted by my crystal impling, which means you can get up to 1k if you actively keep buying them. And after I went to sell them, well, they didn't sell instantly for the price I put, so I was like, okay, let me check the lowest price they sell for and then highball that. They sold for 110 GP and I put mine in 150. And actually, about 20 minutes later, they sold. I probably could have put even 200 GP and they still would have sold. So overall, this moneymaker could get you over 1 million GP an hour, plus the benefit of you catching crystal implings. And that's it from Prifddinas. There are actually 2 more stores that I'm not gonna show you in this video, as I've already done a video about them, and one of them is the dye store, which can get you up to 2 million GP an hour right now, and the other one is the rune store, which is mostly useful for the Iron Man. Okay, time to jump to the next store. First up we have the farming guild. Now Elena here sells a multitude of items right next to the bank, and these items have massive margins. One of them is the gardening trowel, which goes for 300 GP each right now in the GE. So essentially one inventory can yield you almost 9k profit in just few seconds. But I noticed that the volume on that item isn't that high, so I went for the second best item in the store, which is the plant cure, and that item has insane volume. It's basically like a boosted version of the papyrus I showcased beforehand, because people actually really need this for farming, and the bank is only 7 tiles away, which means more yield per hour. After 10 minutes of hustling back and forth, I managed to get almost 1.3k plant cures, and I was kinda worried that I might not be able to sell them for the price they are, so I sold one of them and realized, oh no, they only sell for 500 GP. That's not good. So I went in and put them at 200 GP each, hoping that they bounce back, because the GE graph shows that just few hours ago people bought them for 250, and lo and behold, just like few minutes later it started selling. And I left them for another 20 minutes, and you're gonna see later in this video that they all sold, which means I made about 200k profit in 10 minutes. And that comes to 1.2 million GP an hour, but the same tactic works again. The longer you leave it in, the better price you're gonna get. So this moneymaker can definitely reach for 1.5 million GP an hour. Also, next to Alina is another store that I've done on a video, and this one sells bagged plants. These items are one of the most volatile items, but they can also get you up to 3 million GP an hour if you find the right time to sell this. People buy them at GE for fast farming and construction experience, so they are always gonna be in demand. Okay, let's talk about boots. I'm not joking when I say that this is even better than the pirate store. The store I'm looking at is at Canifis, and it sells clothes. Don't ask me what those clothes are made out of, because the answer probably is extremely disturbing. But nevertheless, people at GE wanna buy these clothes and for hefty profits. Like I said, we're looking at boots here, and currently one inventory of boots gets you about 20k profit per inventory. How insane is that? And later on you're gonna see that these boots actually sell quite well. So as usual, I did the 10-minute run to buy boots. The up cost for me was around 400k, which is quite a lot for such a short time. And again, the reason why these boots are in demand is because Fashionscape. They are the best boots to fit in with the rest of the outfit, and players actually do buy them a lot. So it cost me 400k to buy all of the boots, and the price for these are around 1 million GP net right now, but I don't think I'm gonna get that much back, so I started selling them, and some of them sold instantly. Some of them had to wait a little bit, like I sold all the golden boots immediately for double the profit I bought them for. And oh, also you can see here, almost all the blank gears have sold after like 15 minutes. Just a little side note. And after everything was said and done, I actually managed to get rid of all the boots and got a hefty 410k profit in 10 minutes, which means that moneymaker comes up to almost 2.1 million GP an hour. Not bad for some boots. It is definitely better than Salra if you ask me, although there's no bet for boots yet. Okay, last moneymaker, and I left the best for last on purpose. Now, some of you already know where I'm going because this moneymaker is more popular than the others I showcased you, but it's also more profit. And I mean a lot more profit. I couldn't believe myself how profitable this store is at first, so I just had to test it out myself. Now again, just like with every other store you've seen in the video, take it with some caution. This shouldn't be your main moneymaker, instead it should be something if you want a quick boost to your cash stack. So we're looking at 3 items here. The gold leaf, which has like a 4 to 5k profit per item. Then we have the marble block, which has 6 to 7k profit per item. And then the magic stone, which currently has around 15k profit per one item. And that brings up to almost 30k profit in a single set, which takes you like seconds to get. Now, as you can see, it also requires a lot of money to start, so this isn't recommended for everyone. Honestly, you want at least 50 million GP if you want to make a decent money back, so bear that in mind. I'm gonna use 30 million GP right now because I'm bored and I just want to showcase you how insane this is if you get everything right. I'm not gonna lie, it was kinda scary seeing all my cash stacks just disappear like that, but I'm confident I can make that money back. So after like 5 minutes, I got 20 sets of 3 items, and that cost me almost 29 million GP. Now, when I put the items to GE, I knew that they weren't instantly gonna sell. At the end of the day, these are very niche items, but the profit comes from the fact that people who use this for want them real fast. They want them right away, right at GE, which means they're willing to pay the premium price. And soon enough, the gold leaves started to sell. And like few hours later, I logged back in, and would you look at that? Most of the items sold, which means I made 25k per one item set, which means I made 500k profit in 5 minutes of chilling. And that comes to almost 6 million GP an hour if you do it consistently. Now I will say that one more time because I want to be honest with you. This is not your normal moneymaker. However, if you can get it to work, it's clearly one of the best in the game. And it all comes from the fact that players are willing to pay premium price just so they can save few minutes of their time. There used to be a PVM Arena. Yes, you heard that right. Not player versus player, but you used to be able to fight against all monsters in a temporary arena. And somehow it's still in the game to this day. It's basically a minigame style arena where 2 different teams compete against each other to kill the most amount of bosses in 1 hour. And it was part of an event in 2015 to find out the best clan in Oldschool Runescape. As time went on during that 1 hour period, you would get more and more difficult varieties of bosses, like fighting all 4 cardboard bosses at the same time or having all wilderness bosses spawn at the same time, until one team either ends up with 0 hit points or the 1 hour mark is up. Like I said, I love this kind of fun little nuggets from the past that not many people know about. So today I want to show you my very own personal top 10 facts about old school RuneScape. Starting with the fact that completing the Desert Treasure 1 quest actually gives you 20,007 experience. And you might be wondering, where is that extra 7 experience coming from? Well, the developer of that quest was a bit of a troll, and he wanted to put in the funny AHA number. So instead, after completing the quest, you get 20,006.9 experience. But there is a wacky case where this exact number is rounded up, only for this specific scenario. And this leaves you with 20,007. The same exact developer that did the AHA number was also an intern at Jagex for one summer. So basically the most famous quest of all time in RuneScape history was created by an intern that worked at Jagex for less than 3 months. Honestly, that's kind of funny. Okay, let's talk about weapons. And no, I don't want to talk about Twisted Bows or Osmoten's Fang or even Dragon Daggers. Everybody knows about those weapons. Instead, I want to talk about Rune Claws. Yes, you heard that right. First look at Rune Claws might not be that interesting, but I promise you, this is the most fascinating item you have ever seen in your life. Firstly, it's one of the 2 rune weapons in the game that has a special attack, the other one being Rune Throne Axe. The problem is, the special attack isn't that effective. Basically, it gives you 10% boost on your attack. The downside is the next hit afterwards is slowed down by 0.6 seconds, which means it's actually less DPS to use the special attack than not touch it at all. Furthermore, the Rune Claw special attack has a 25% chance to poison your targets, which I bet you didn't know. And this would be very interesting if it wasn't for the fact that Rune Claws has a severity of 0 poison damage, which means you can't actually poison your target despite the Rune Claws having a poison mechanic in the weapon. Now, I already know what you're saying, Kriibus, but there is a way to make the poison on Rune Claws work if you equip Serpentine Helm, which boosts your poison severity rate. That's a smart way of thinking, but unfortunately, Serpentine Helm only works for poisoned weapons and not special attacks, which honestly makes Rune Claws one of the most fascinating and useless weapons in the game. Okay, next thing I'm about to tell you is probably the most obscure thing you have ever seen in your life. I was blown away when I found out about this. You can make your own Impling jars through a series of insane methods. And at first this might not look impressive, but the steps you have to take to get the Impling jar is probably the reason why almost nobody in the history of this game has done it yet. So you need 5 items to make an Impling jar. Firstly, a butterfly jar, some flowers, 8 anchovies, a pestle and mortar, and an empty vial. You come to Remington, you cook your anchovies. Once all of them are cooked, use pestle and mortar to turn them into anchovy paste. Then make your way into the chemist house and ask for a sieve. Once you have the sieve in your inventory, use the anchovy paste with the sieve to make anchovy oil. Now use the oil with the flowers and you get imp repellent. Are you still with me? I hope you are. And finally, use the imp repellent on the lamp oil still, and if you use your butterfly jar on it as well, bada bim bada boom, you get an Impling jar through a process that absolutely nobody has ever used. And it only exists for the simple fact that there used to be cases where players got locked out of Impling jars forever on their accounts. So this method was put in to counter that. Okay, enough about Impling jars. Let's talk about Desert Treasure 2, the newest quest released in Oldschool RuneScape. Everybody already knows the fun little things you can do with the leeches inside the scar, where you can use the item on the leech and it would start following you around. This has caused a lot of fun interactions where players feed billions of GP into the leeches. And you also probably know that there is a golem during the quest that you can operate on, which gives you a lot of interesting names with special dialogue. Firstly, you can find information about the 4 gods and their generals, and everything related to the Majorat. But that's not why we're here, are we? There are a few other interesting NPCs you can type in, like the guy from the Cooking Guild, and it says our character has access denied, which surely means that the Cooking Guild has now been taken over by the evil forces of Saros. You can also type in cats, which gives you a result saying that there is a 36.4% chance of personal injury when interacting with this animal. But that's not the only Easter egg in this questline. For instance, if you picklock the stone chest south of Stranglewood, you will be teleported to an island north of Seiya that has absolutely nothing in it. The only way to escape this place is to actually teleport out yourself. There is also a fire near Varrock that you physically cannot light. Every time you do try to light it up, the tinderbox will just break. And while we're on the topic of tinderboxes, there are other methods of losing your tinderboxes. This seems like a super rare occurrence that actually isn't that rare, but was just put into the game and everyone can do this if they wanted to. Basically, you can get 28 tinderboxes, go to the haunted mine, and there is a way to make yourself swim in the water. After the animation is completed, you now have 28 damp tinderboxes which are tradable but can't be sold at the GE, giving you a rare but not really version of the tinderbox. Okay, I want to talk about an armor that you probably have never seen before. It's this one, a very purple and transparent armor. Back in 2016, Jagex hosted a cryptic search party, and throughout weeks and weeks they posted new hints on Twitter for people to find. The results were actually pretty hilarious. Every piece of the armor was obtained by bringing absolutely random items to certain NPCs, and throughout the weeks players figured out how to get the full set. The armor itself has same stats as full iron, and it's not very useful, besides the amazing fashion skip statements you can do in-game. And you can get this exact armor yourself even today. I'll put the full solution down in the description, and while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel because it helps me out a lot as well. I love you. Okay, I wanna end the video with some fun facts about bugs or glitches you might not know about, because throughout the years, there's been just so many of them, and I feel like they should be documented forever. So let's start with Baft. Trust me, this will all make sense soon. There was this interesting bug that happened just a few days ago, where one player entered Raids 1, aka Chambers of Serik, but instead they were teleported under the Kefri's room in Raids 3. This is what's called Baft, which is Personal Area Forced Teleport. It's a bug that teleports you into instanced areas of other players, and it mostly occurs when you're using ladders, stairs, or anything else that teleports you somewhere else. But the problem here is that your final destination isn't set up properly. There was a great example of that when Song of the Elves was released, and during the Ardoin cutscene, the upstairs of Ardi Castle wasn't set up properly, so you could teleport to a completely different instance or even across the map. Another famous example has been the Trainer Village Bank, where the blue party hat used to be. Back in the day, people actually managed to get into the bank and steal the blue party hat, so Jagex had to change the item ID to make it useless. One more example of this was the Elysian Spirit Shield during Monkey Madness 2. Using force teleport to get into other people's instant areas will always happen in the game, and it's just because the game sometimes makes funny mistakes, and it's basically up to Jagex to play the cat and mouse game with players who abuse this. Oh, by the way, the guy who got teleported from Raids 1 to Raids 3 also had a genie event happening at the same time, which isn't supposed to happen inside Raids, and he never even got the lamp, which I feel like is the definition of getting scammed. And finally, I want to show you a funny bug that was patched fairly quickly, and it involved once again the same exact Tombs of a Masked raids, and more specifically, it involved this item. This is called Neutralizing Potion, and it's an item used in one of the rooms at the raid. However, there was a way to stall the game inside the raids, where you can spam click on the potions and take them outside. And since the value of the potion was 2 GP per potion, you can basically make 1.2 million GP an hour by just clicking on the boxes and spamming 100 potions at a time, and then later on dying to other players in the wilderness with the potions. Jagex has now fixed the bug, but it is estimated that this lasted for weeks or maybe even months, and some players even managed to set up a bot farm doing this method. In hindsight, tricks like these are always a good lesson to double check everything before you release it. With the release of Tombs of a Masked raid, there was supposed to come a helmet that you get after completing Beneath Cursed Sands quest. When the helmet was in your inventory, it looked identical to Varrock's helmet, probably due to having no inventory model. However, when you equip it, it showcased the actual model. The hero's helmet, which was later named into the lion's helmet, was initially supposed to be a tradable item, and the assumption here is that you can either check your raid scores, or it had a teleport option near Necropolis that you can obtain after completing the quest. It was put into the game a few months before Raids 3 came out, and just 1 week after it was removed forever, not to be seen again. Item number 2, the League Tomato. This orange looking tomato was meant to be an item used by Jagex moderators to test out the Twisted League back in 2020. It had multiple features like the debug option to fix bugs inside League's game mode only. Later down the line, when Leagues 2 and Leagues 3 came out, Jagex added extra features for those leagues specifically. This item is similar to the other Jagex moderator tools like the Rotten Egg that can teleport you to any place in Gillenor. Then we have the Rotten Carrot that can ban any player with a single click. Then we have the Rotten Strawberry that works specifically for bosses and locations. Then we have the Rotten Cabbage that was specifically used for camera control like you saw during Deadman tournaments. And finally, the most infamous Rotten Potato that allows Jagex moderators to do multitude of things like set stats, teleport, open banks anywhere, delete any item, see other players' inventory and transform yourself into any NPC in the game. And it seems like Jagex moderators might actually bring the Leagues tomato back this year as we're getting closer and closer to Leagues 4. I guess we have to wait and see. By the way, if you made it this far into the video, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. That way it helps me know what my audience wants to see in my videos. Thank you very much. I love you all. Mwah. Okay, let's continue. Item number 3 is the Soul Talisman and Soul Tiara. Funnily enough, these items have been in the game for almost 20 years, but it was always unobtainable because there wasn't any soul altar in the game. However, in 2016, Arceus got a massive rework, and blood and soul altars were added into the game, but since you didn't need the soul talisman to enter the altar anymore, these items were removed from the game forever. To this day, you can still use the soul altar without the talisman, so it's safe to say that the soul talisman will never make a return. Next one is actually not an item, but rather than a place that you can't access. However, it's still in the game. When you use the games necklace to teleport to Bertop and you go downstairs to the castle, you get into the games room. You soon start to notice that there are 8 rooms in the games room that are completely inaccessible. They contain nothing but crates and barrels, but initially Jagex wanted to add more games into the games room, like warships, chess, backgammon, and even games like Go and Slime Wars. The games room was released 19 years ago, and unfortunately these other games I mentioned were never added into it. However, the rooms are still there to this day. Item number 5, free-to-play starter pack. Back in 2015, when free-to-play was released, another item called the Holiday Duel was given to live streamers, clan leaders and few other players to distribute free-to-play starter packs to new players. The Holiday Duel could only spawn around 200 starter packs per day, so it had a limit, and the starter pack consisted of a lot of beginner items to get people started with their journey. The current GE value for the starter pack is a little bit less than 2k, and it was just a way to celebrate the start of free to play. As far as we know, and the information we have available to us, this item actually never left the game, so there might be a few accounts back from 2015 that still have this item in their bank and just don't know about it, which makes it basically one of the rarest items in the game. Item number 6. This is one of the rarest items in the game just for the simple fact that I don't think anyone can obtain this ever. However, it's still in the game. Burnt pita breads. The reason why it's so rare is because you stop burning the pita bread at level 38 cooking. However, you can't actually cook the pita until you get 58 cooking, meaning you can technically never burn it. Players have tried to use a multitude of different methods to gain access to this item, like using diseases to lower your cooking levels, but the biggest problem is that you need to use a cooking range to get the item, which makes it impossible to obtain. This was also confirmed by Mod Ash later down the line that indeed, yes, currently it's literally impossible to obtain this item. Item number 7. This time we're actually talking about NPCs, not items. Back in 2013, Jagex hosted the very first Christmas event, and during that event you had to talk to 3 kids in Karamja and save them from a goblin. If the player had completed the event, they will continue to see those 3 kids in Karamja forever. However, if you never started the Christmas event, the kids never appeared for your character specifically, making this the first and the only NPCs in Oldschool Runescape that are discontinued. So, if you completed the 2013 Christmas event, you accidentally unlocked one of the rarest NPCs in Oldschool Runescape. Item number 8. There was an item called Fireworks, which was an unobtainable potion released with Snapdragon back in the day. It was intended to be a cosmetic potion that created with Snapdragons, and the secondary ingredient was supposed to come from Brimhaven Agility Arena that was released on the same exact day. Normal potions have one extra option, which is empty. This potion, however, had another option called Light, so essentially you needed to use a tinderbox to create fireworks. The potion, however, was scrapped for unknown reasons, but it is thought that the level of fireworks animation you currently see were initially used for this potion, and afterwards the animation was instead added to leveling up. Okay, we have 2 more items to go, and I say those 2 specifically for last because they're my personal favorites. Firstly, there was a telekinetic grab tablet. Yes, it was intended to be made just like any other tablet in your player-owned house, and it was a tradable item. It was intended to be used as telekinetic grab spell without requiring the use of normal spellbook. But supposedly it was too overpowered and Jagex decided to remove it from the game forever. And last but not least, we have my personal favorite discontinued item, which are the League's trophies. As someone who is proud owner of 2 dragon trophies, these are considered one of the rarest and ultimately best discontinued items in Oldschool Runescape. No bias. You could only obtain these during the leagues, and specifically the Dragon Trophy was for players who were top 1% of players during leagues. Despite there being millions of Oldschool Runescape players throughout the years, it is currently estimated that less than 5,742 players currently own any version of Dragon Trophy. These trophies are mostly for cosmetic purposes. The only thing they have is a nifty animation, and ultimately it's there to just flex that you have no life. However, currently there are a total of 21 trophies for 3 leagues, meaning each league had 7 trophies in total, ranging from bronze to dragon, making all 21 items discontinued forever. There is an item called the Snowy Knight. It's a butterfly and you need 35 hunter to catch it. Once you have it in your inventory, you can use that on other players to heal them for 15 hit points. It is one of the few items in Oldschool Runescape that allows you to heal your friends instead of yourself. In fact, all of the butterflies in this game have a special unique effects. Ruby Butterfly works as a super attack, Sapphire Butterfly is super defense potion, and the Black Warlock works as a super strength potion. So technically, when you go bossing with your friends, you can all heal and boost each other up if needed, because that's what true friendship is all about, just bunch of dudes and butterflies. Starting with this potion. It's called Minified Remedy and it has one purpose, to restore your stats to normal. I know, doesn't sound very appealing. However, players figured out it also has the opposite effect where it keeps your boosted stats for longer. Good example is this. Bring 1 dose of Super Combat Divine Potion and 1 dose of Minified Remedy. Drink your Super Combat and your stats will stay for 5 minutes. We all know that, right? Now, as soon as the Divine Potion effect is about to run out, you drink your Minified Remedy and your stats will stay the same, essentially allowing you to have boosted stats for twice as long and for a lot cheaper. 4 doses of Minified Remedy potions cost like 1.5k GP, so it's super cheap to utilize and basically squeeze out double the value. It does work on all effects, ranging potions, combat potions, non-combat stats, even on items like Imbued and Saturated Heart. For example, if you click on your Saturated Heart, you will gain plus 30 magic boost for 5 minutes, and before that 5 minutes is up, you can drink 1 dose of Minified Remedy and now you will gain that boost for another 5 minutes without actually needing the Saturated Heart in your inventory. It's really useful for raiding because oftentimes you need to pre-pot before you enter the raid, so bringing 1 dose of Minified Remedy allows you to double your pre-pot timers. And again, this goes for everything, magic, ranged, melee, you name it. And like I mentioned, 1 dose of Minified Remedy is so cheap that it's basically guaranteed value everywhere you go, whether you do raids, Slayer, maybe even wilderness content where you don't want to bring valuable items with you. Funnily enough, it's actually a bug because it's supposed to have the opposite effect like I mentioned before, where let's say you use Saradomin Brew and it lowers your stats. The initial idea was that Minified Remedy restores that lowered stats, but players figured out it also has the opposite effect where it keeps your boosted stats. So use this potion while you can because there might come a point where Jagex removes this interaction. Okay, let's try away from potions for a little bit and talk about your game settings because there is so much interesting things here that players are not taking advantage of. First off, whenever you die, your food and potions will automatically not go to the grave, but there is a way to fix that through settings. Just click the box that says I want my food and potions to go to my gravestone, and whenever you die in game, you will have all your supplies automatically in your grave now. But for me, the most interesting part is how you can death pile supplies to teleport somewhere else, which allows you to have hundreds of food stocked stockpiled in one boss location. Let me show you. This is super interesting. So let's say there is a boss right here and I'm gonna die and it's super far away from a bank, so it's very tedious to bank every time I ran out of food. What I can do is just keep respawning with full inventories of food over and over and over again. And all of this food that I'm losing right now will go to the initial gravestone that I set up 5 minutes ago, which in our case would be that really scary boss really far away. This allows you to teleport your food across the map without actually running there yourself. And the best part is that food will stay on the ground for 1 hour before it disappears. So you don't have to worry about losing it immediately. Plus this also works with potions and other supplies. So you can even bring extra Saradomin brews and super restore potions or even combat potions. This is really good for slayer bosses like demonic gorillas where the banking is a little bit tedious. Maybe things like Alpha Queen where the bank is really far away, or any other boss similar to this. The only restriction is that your gravestone needs to be in an open world. So no instances, and yeah, that's about it. Hopefully your grinds are now much easier. There are a few other game settings as well that also help you out with your grinds. One of them is the setting which allows the players to make 100 darts with just one click. For the longest time, players had to manually make darts, but this actually has been in the settings for a long time now. The other one I really enjoy was disabling my level up interface, which is especially good on new accounts. You know when you get level 2 fishing, level 3, level 4 and so on, and it always pops up, you can actually disable all of that in settings under the level up interface. And from now on, it doesn't delay your actions. And finally, Jagex added a cool feature back in summer where your runes in your rune pouch stay there when you die. And now they added in even more items like rune crafting pouches, herb sacks, seed boxes, tackle boxes, bolt pouches. So now when you die with these items in your inventory, the items inside those pouches and sacks will stay there even after death. Meaning I don't have to manually put in 50 herbs into my herb sack again. Okay, I have another one for you, and this one actually doesn't so much help you in game, but it's just actually really interesting trivia to know. And basically the answer to the question, which video game holds the world record for most amount of original music, is actually Runescape. And all of it is user friendly and royalty free. Obviously Jagex owns the music, but they have never taken down any video that uses their music. And that's why you see a lot of big YouTubers use Runescape music in their content. Also the other reason is because it's absolutely banger. People who have never heard about Runescape have probably listened to Sea Shanty too. And another good example is the Varrock music mod Ash produced a few months ago. When that enrage phase kicks in during Varrock fight, oh my god, it just hits the right spot. Okay, enough about dope music, let's do a quick fire round. There is a RuneLite plugin that allows you to have the spirit tree as an interactive map, which I found to be so much easier to use. Firstly, go to the plugin hub and search for spirit tree map. After you download the plugin and go to your nearest spirit tree, it now shows an interactive map of all the spirit trees in the game. It even has options for spirit trees that you planted yourself. I found this to be so much easier to follow because the visual cues help me choose the right location. If you go to tiers of Guthix and you have the same amount of experience in all skills, there is a specific order on how you will get the experience from this minigame, and it goes cooking, crafting, thieving, slayer and so on. This is especially interesting for players who have 200 million experience in all skills, which means they will always gain cooking experience in tiers of Guthix no matter what. The most common stat in Runescape players know is that 92 is half of 99, but this in reality works after every 7 levels. For example, level 60 is half of 67, level 40 is half of 47, and so on and so on. You can take any level in Runescape, and if you add 7 levels on top of it, that's double the experience. Radha's Blessing is one of the best teleports in the game because it saves you an inventory space when you're PVMing and don't have any other teleports with you. The bank is always one click away, it's also the closest access to redwood trees and recharging your Book of the Dead. Plus it has other benefits like there is a secret sandcrab dungeon next to it, and finally there are a few clue steps nearby. Plus it's literally a free item after completing the current achievement diaries compared to other teleport methods. So Radha's Blessing fills in so many small niches that you should have it on you at all times. And the final tip I have for you is actually related to installed heads, because not many people know about this, but you don't actually need to fight them near the dark altar. and I see a lot of people training their prayer there. You can actually fight them anywhere on the map. The only restriction is that you need to get the ensouled heads as a drop, and if you cast a resurrection spell on them before you pick up the ensouled heads, it spawns the monsters and you will get the full experience. You can't do this after the item is in your inventory, and actually it's two different item IDs. One ID is if it's on the ground and the other ID is if it's in your inventory. That's because technically when the item is on the ground it's not yet tradable, and that's why you can cast a spell on it. So whenever you're doing a Slayer task and you get ensouled heads, it's actually really beneficial to just cast a spell and get like 1000 prayer experience in 10 seconds. Because I know if you play an Iron Man, you're just gonna pile them up in your bank and you will never use them. Oh, and finally, this is my favorite thing ever. When you examine Ring of Endurance, it says, I wonder if this ring helps me with ... confirming that everyone at Jagex is horny. With the release of Desert Treasure 2 came one of the most hilarious and crazy bugs that has ever happened in Oldschool Runescape, where you could hit over 500 with a new Soul Reaper axe, basically putting it above any other max hit we've ever seen before in this game. Funnily enough, the bug was caused from a simple typing error where the accuracy roll on the axe accidentally was put on the strength roll, meaning the axe suddenly had about 10 times more power than it usually has. This caused some funny incidents where players just blatantly got one-shot by people who were using the axe. However, Jagex managed to fix the simple typo within hours and the problem was solved. Next up, we have one of the most devastating bugs that has ever happened in Oldschool Runescape, and it had a real economical impact. It was Christmas Eve 2022, and one player found out how to duplicate Soul Wars points. Now, if you don't know about these points, you can basically trade these points for gold. And trust me, he did. He managed to collect over 500 billion coins, which on the black market sells for more than $100,000. An absolutely insane amount. The person obviously was permanently banned. Some poor Jagex developer had to come to work during Christmas and fix the bug because it caused such a massive amount of damage. And in his own words, the player who discovered this bug said he actually managed to sell off most of the gold. Funnily enough, if you go back and check the Grand Exchange graphics during 2022 Christmas, you can see that all the items in the duping video actually dipped in price a lot. He probably dumped all of them in the GE at the same time and hoped for the best. And honestly, it worked out for him. The bug itself was pretty simple oversight by Jagex. Basically, you can imbue certain items in the game for Soul Wars points and then later sell those items back for more points, creating an infinite amount of tokens in the game. It was probably one of the first bugs in Oldschool Runescape that had actual economical impact. Next, I want to show you a hilarious bug that to this day has impact on Oldschool Runescape. In 2022, Jagex accidentally created a bug where inside the Hallowed Sepulchre, which is used to train agility, you can do infinite runs without taking any damage or losing any hit points or even getting caught. If you don't know about Hallowed Sepulchre, it's kinda like an obstacle course. You run through the entire course without taking any damage, you get rewarded for it. It's one of the best skill and money makers in the game, and for a certain period, players could lower their hit points to 1, wear the Hallowed Ring, which makes you take 0 damage, and just blatantly run through all the obstacles without ever getting caught. Some players reported that this has been going on for months, where basically you can ignore everything and make tons of money with this method, and maybe even break new world records. If you don't know, at the entrance there is a notice board, and to this day, the records for all Hallowed Sepulchre speedruns have still not been cleared out. And if you log in and go check it out yourself, the best times are still done with this exact bug. This also caused one of the most valuable items you can get from this minigame, the Ring of Endurance, dropped from 45 million GP to 25 million GP. However, Jagex did fix the bug many months later. Unfortunately, the world records for speedruns are still not fixed yet, and this will go down as one of the most unintentional and funny incidents in the history of this game. Next bug I want to showcase you probably had the most amount of loss for players in this game, because as far as we know, players who didn't know this was happening and lost all their items because of this actually never got those items back. And the worst part about it all, Jagex went completely silent on the issue for a very long time. If you don't know how a lot of players lost billions of GP in Oldschool Runescape in 2022, let me fill you in. The story takes place in the Gauntlet minigame, and basically how it works is that your gear and your inventory is stored in a certain place while you're inside the minigame, because you can't bring any items in. Once the minigame is over, the stored items and gear you had will be given back to you. However, for about 2-month period, there was an incident where if you stayed inside the Gauntlet while the entire Oldschool Runescape game went offline, the storage that had all all your items and gear didn't save the progress. So let's say the weekly game update happened on Wednesday. The game timer slowly starts running down and you think you can push one more gauntlet run before the game update happens. Turns out you don't make it. The game update happened and once you log in again, you literally lost everything you had on because the storage didn't count this in. Inventory, gear, looting bag, all of it. This is how it kinda looks. After the minigame was done, he was still wearing all the items from inside the minigame. However, he wasn't inside the minigame anymore, and his initial gear, which included stuff like Dome of Fire, Glory Amulets, Boots, Barrow's Gloves, and so much more, do not show up on his gear tab anymore. And he got lucky, all things considered, only losing few million GP worth of items. There was dozens of players who lost so much more. There was a guy who got the most valuable item from this minigame, the Enchanted Weapon Seed, which cost at the time 160 million GP. And the most amazing part is, he got it on an Iron Man. And guess what happened to his entire inventory of loot? Poof, just gone. Like that, all that progress. So this starts gaining more and more traction on Reddit, on Twitter, because more players are losing all their valuables. Imagine you're an Ultimate Iron Man, your entire account is in your inventory. Imagine losing thousands of hours of progress through a glitch you could have never predicted. And honestly, that wasn't the worst part. Jagex didn't tell anyone this was happening for months, so players could avoid this. All they had to do was put out a message saying, hey, there is currently a game-breaking bug happening in Gauntlet. We're trying to fix this, but it takes time. Meanwhile, please make sure you're not doing anything there to risk losing your stuff. But they did none of that. The only way you can get confirmation was to go to Mod Ash's personal Twitter account, God bless him, scroll down to the bottom, and there was a single tweet saying, yeah, we're on it. That was it. Meanwhile, at the same time, people were still losing their valuables with this bug. To my knowledge, none of the players who lost their stuff never got it back. Some people lost 600 million GP worth of items. Some lost all their loot on their Iron Man and so much more. Jagex did fix the bug right after it gained more traction, but unfortunately, by that time, billions of GP were wiped from the game already. And on the topic of players losing their items, there was a hilarious bug where a player obtained a Third Age cape, one of the most valuable capes on their Iron Man account. They stored that cape inside their BOH wardrobe, and then Jagex decided to update the game where you can only take out items if you have the full set. Meaning, if this person ever wanted to see their Third Age cape again, they would have had to get the entire Third Age set. And just to put into perspective, on average that person would have had to complete about 100,000 clue scrolls, which give or take is about 7 years of progress. Also keep in mind you have to play every single day. Mod Sween came to help with the issue and said, hey, it was a bit of an oopsie daisy on our part, and with the next week updates, we're gonna make it so you can take out individual pieces of Third Age items from your BOH, but only for these items. I wanna believe the update was solely made for this guy, but I imagine there were a few other players who basically locked their items in the wardrobe accidentally. Okay, enough about people losing their items. I think it's time for a quick fire round and we blast some fun bugs that were caused in this game by accident. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. There was a bug recently done with the movement where Jagex showcased how the newest skill sailing is gonna work, but the code that was meant for boats and ships in the game accidentally was put on player movements, so had hilarious padding incidents which 100% ruined a lot of raids that day. When Tombstone of Mascot was released, for an entire day, the raid somehow managed to ruin the hunter skill. Players could not catch any chinchompas, any maniacal monkeys, and whenever you put a trap down, it did nothing. That day, players could literally gain 0 hunter experience until it was fixed. At least it put a stop to botting for a certain period. There was a funny incident a few years ago where the minigame teleports just stopped working for a day, and instead you teleported into other players' instances, so this guy was inside someone else's Inferno run, and he could just spectate the entire run if he wanted to. There was an accidental bug with Fasani Nightmare on the day of release. For the first 12 hours of doing bosses, not a single player could get any unique items. Meaning, despite the fact that the boss was killed thousands of times by thousands of players, not a single unique entered the game. And finally, there was a hilarious bug with the high scores a few years ago, where if you swapped from group Iron Man account to solo Iron Man account, you somehow managed to retain your rank despite now being in a different high scores, which caused funny incidents like this, where a player is ranked 2 despite having contributed 0 experience. Okay, that was a lot of fun. I wanna end the video with probably my favorite bug of all time. And it actually happened recently. On June 2023, Jagex added a new, very colorful update where you can type in with the rainbow text. It looks something like this. However, this unfortunately goes one of the biggest and craziest bugs in the game history, because just 1 month later, there was a day when typing in the rainbow text literally crashed the game for anyone around you. Imagine the damage it caused that day. You can go to GE, type in anything in rainbow, and suddenly hundreds of players around you would disconnect and their clients would crash. You could go near a hardcore Ironman, type in anything with rainbow, and their client would immediately crash, probably causing them to lose their status. Imagine losing your hardcore Ironman account to someone typing in rainbow colors. It's safe to say for an entire day the wrath of Pride took over Oldschool Runescape. Funnily enough, literally 1 week before that, the Pride event did happen, so it's safe to say they went on the offense and became too powerful, at least for a day. The funniest part was that a lot of bots in GE do use the rainbow text all the time, so when you were standing in GE before you logged in and wanted to play, you could literally not log in, because as soon as you did, a bot would probably spam something in rainbow text, basically making you disconnect immediately. And not only that, the bots also disconnect themselves. It was an absolute mess all around. Also to note, it's not the first time you can type in something weird and the client crashes. Many years ago, you could type in this weird character that is meant for measuring something and it instantly crashed everyone around you. Players would then go to PvP worlds, wait for someone to spawn in Lumbridge and then type in that character. Everyone around them would crash and they would pick up the loot. It's safe to say that the code of this game is ancient. It's very old. And it's very likely stuff like this will happen in the future again, which means I can make more videos. So take that as a win. RuneLite is a third-party client that is used by over 1 million players every single month, and it is safe to say that it's the main reason why Oldschool Runescape is still going strong in 2023. It gives you endless possibilities to improve your gameplay with plugins like tile markers that allow you to draw PPs on the ground. Or we even have plugins like Monster Menu HP that shows you exactly how much hit points an NPC has left. I mean, even from graphical standpoint, the GPU plugin completely changes the outlook of the game while still keeping that old school feel. I mean, every Wednesday when the weekly game update happens, I refuse to log in before RuneLite is up and running. I don't want to play that ugly normal version of the game with none of the benefits. The most important ones being me walking around and dropping chocolate bars behind me. It's a necessary game experience for my enjoyment. Or even if you scale back from the size of it, there are smaller plugins like Impling Finder, where after downloading the plugin itself, you are given a list of the latest Implings in the entire world of Killenor. Really useful for Ironman and for money making. And honestly, I don't even know why I put this in the video, because it's actually very OP and I shouldn't have revealed my secret moneymakers. But it's okay, I stopped doing these moneymaker videos after the great disaster of the latest one. And last but not least, my favorite useful plugin is called the Tile Packs, and its entire purpose is to give you tiles in different bosses and activities that might be useful to you. You wanna learn Pandas 5.0 but never knew where to place the tiles? No problem, we got you. Wanna first try Inferno every single attempt? Let's be honest, that's not gonna happen, but at least you got the tiles ready whenever you wanna go. Wanna have tile markers in every single DOB room? Okay, we both know you're never gonna go to DOB, are you? But if you ever do think about changing your mind, the Tile Packs plugin has your back. For me, the best part about this plugin is the Darn's Layer glue step. Oh god, I hate this step, and this helps a lot, to be honest. But all of that aside, in this video, I don't want to talk about the most useful plugins, and yes, this is useful, I will argue with you. Instead, I want to focus on the most fun ones that nobody uses. Now let's start with the most important one, the Imbued Fart plugin. And this does exactly what you think it does. Every time you activate your Imbued Heart, a fart sound comes out of it. Some say it's the peak of humanity, and I agree. This is it. This is as far as we're gonna go as human species. Okay, I'm over dramatizing a little bit. but just a little. There are other funny plugins you should know about. Like, did you know there is a plugin called Animation Transmog, and essentially its entire purpose is to give you sick moves when you train your skills in the game. Let's say you're on a Slayer task and you want to scatter those ashes you get from demons, but you want to add some funk to it. Say no more. Now you can scatter away with sick dance moves. Yeah, go ahead and bury those sacred remains while bursting out your best moves and truly release that inner TikTok inside you. Or even better, wanna laugh every time you die in game? Good, we just got the perfect solution for you. Now you can actually blank while you spawn in Lumpy. Isn't that great? And there is so much more here. Bootcutting animations, mining animations, you can even high elk in style if you want to. The world is your oyster. And we're not done with animations just yet. Wanna walk like an absolute baller? You have that option. No problemo. Here I am just skipping all my troubles away with the Animation Replacer plugin. Just add a new transmog set, then add a new animation swap, replace the movement of your character with skipping, and I promise you, your life in Oldschool Runescape will be 100 times more fun. Guaranteed, no money back. Okay, let's slow down. Nah, I'm just kidding. You can even add the Rainbow Rave and make one single glorious mess. The true gamer experience of RGB. Okay. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is the part of the video where a sponsor is supposed to be, but I don't have any currently because my latest video was an absolute disaster. So I was thinking, okay, what can I put here? And turns out there is this one Oldschool Runescape community who has been really helping me out lately. So why not sponsor them and help out Oldschool Runescape communities if I can? They are called Cyberhex, and it's basically a community of over 4,000 players who all play Oldschool Runescape and have this large community to do stuff together. So go check them out. There are thousands of amazing players there if you want to do bossing events or just chill out with them. And I'm also there, and I'll put the link in the description. They're growing extremely fast, so if you want to be part of the growth, go check them out. Okay, self-made sponsor time over. Back to the video. There was a massive problem with migration in Gillanor and how the population of ducks just refused to land on Yanil Pool, and one creator said, no problem, we're gonna fix the migration of ducks with plugins. Because that's how we do things in RuneScape. So they did. In fact, there are ducks in a lot of places now. Yanil, Farming Guild, Fossil Island, and honestly, I'm not sure how safe it is, but there are ducks even in Solandra, just swimming along in the bubbling hot acid pools. We can fix anything with ducks. Watch this, are you ready? This is gonna blow your mind. There is a plugin that turns Nexus Portal inside a BOH into an interactive map, so you can firstly find your teleports faster, and secondly, look how cool it is! It's amazing! Just pick any region you want to go to. So let's say I want to teleport to Watchtower. I'm gonna go to the Kandarian region and then just use the teleport there. Not only does it make your life easier, it makes it cooler. That's a win-win in my book. Next up, I want to show you something that is so powerful that the RuneLite developers had to remove it from the hub due to its overpowered nature. I present you the Floating Inventory plugin. Imagine trying to use this in LMS games or doing raids. Also, it is stated that if the inventory hits the corner, your account will get deleted permanently. All I want to say is that welcome to my floating inventory only Iron Man. Wait for it. Wait for it. Ah, so close, so close. We will get it next time, don't worry. This is a very simple plugin, yet I absolutely love it. As someone who spends a lot of time in Priv, there is a plugin called Priftiness, and its entire purpose is to remove all the unnecessary scenery that was added in to make the city look more clean. That's it. But the difference it makes is day and night. And it's stuff like this that makes me appreciate RuneLite every day more and more. Simple, yet effective. Now, this is without a doubt my favorite one, and some of you already know what's gonna happen because I'm standing next to a door, but I just had to include this as I think it's one of a kind masterpiece. The entire concept of this plugin is to kick in doors. That's it. Sometimes you kick the doors so aggressively that they actually open outwards, but that's okay. We don't make mistakes here. We only have happy accidents. Stuck on that quest? Say no more. You can pour out that frustration by kicking down every door in your way. Doing glue scrolls? Let them know your dominance by kicking down that door on your way in. Thank you to whoever made the door kicker. It seems like a step in the right direction, and I got a kick out of this. Now here's a semi-useful plugin. I've recently started doing glue scrolls, and I hate opening Implings after I get a glue scroll from them. It's just a wasted potential. So there is a plugin called Impling Saver that literally stops you from opening more glues if you already have a glue either in your bank or in your inventory. Again, the same concept. Very simple, but very effective. Also, how did I suddenly get maxed on this account? Yeah, there's a plugin for that. Just type in whatever stats you want to get or total level you want on your skill tab and go crazy. You want to revive Neve after the Monkey Madness 2 quest? You have that option. Runelight plugins are so powerful that we can literally bring back people from the afterlife. Why is there suddenly rain in Gielinor? You guessed it, it's another plugin. I'm not joking when I say there is a plugin for everything. Let's be honest, it makes the game so much better, and it's a hill I'm willing to die on. Runelight plugins are the epitome of Oldschool Runescape. Every game that allows the players to make it better is a win in my book. And as long as Runelight is up and running, I have no fear that Oldschool Runescape will die out.